if I was buying a property in another area that I didn't understand, I would definitely use a buyer's agent, because you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know where the housing commission is. You don't know what the best streets are. You don't know what the prices are. So I think it's essential if people don't know the market or don't know the process.
There's a perception out there that there's argy-bargy between buyers agents and selling agents. We've done many deals with you guys and there's never argy-bargy. Yes, you want the best result for your seller and we want the best result for the buyer, but the market will speak and set the price. We're there to do the best we can and so are you. But it's never a fight.
Disrespectful or a fight or...
Yeah, never. I think it's always a really smooth process. You know, we both understand that we've got the same goal at the end.
We are welcoming some exciting guests to the podcast, Unreal Estate Podcast, today. Josh Froud and Ricky Cavarra from Whiteman Property. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good.
Thanks for having us.
And congratulations on your recent award as well.
Thank you.
Great achievement.
It's a nice little thing to
It is.
hold on the night.
And wonderful. Tell us, what was it, just for the listeners that don't know what
Central
that was.
Coast Local Business Award for Real Estate. So, really proud to win, and we're just a small office and just one office and a few people, but we work really hard and we're really proud of what we achieved. So
I was going to say, it's nice to get the community vote, isn't it?
Yeah. So it was actually people backing us. It wasn't us just nominating ourselves and then someone just pulls us out of a hat.
Yeah.
It's just about our overall experiences.
Well, we can speak from our experience and we love dealing with you all in your team.
Amazing team to deal with. So, we've always had a great experience and our clients have as well. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Very
it's
deserving.
always good to deal with you guys as well.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll have to keep
We
it
can
that
dig.
way, eh?
We can dig into that a bit more as we've got some, great conversation to have today. But just to start us off, tell us a little bit about, why you're in real estate, how you started, and a little bit more about Whiteman Property.
I just started straight out of high school. I didn't know what I was going to do, and my sister was a real estate recruiter. So she just got me a gig doing real estate traineeship, property management apprentice, right? So I just did that, fell into that. That was in Lane Cove in Sydney, and really liked it, liked the city life. And then I sort of moved into the sales when I met Brian on the Central Coast, and that was like nearly 10 years ago.
Wow.
So just been with him ever since and absolutely love it. So
amazing. You had quite a different journey in, didn't you, Ricky?
I did. I was always sort of immersed in real estate, like my uncle and my cousins and all that were sort of in it. So it made a lot of sense, but I initially wanted to sort of take the sales path, but there was no opportunity on the coast. But I just went down the route in Sydney. I was working in a really high performance office. They're based in Hunters Hill, so it was a completely different part of the world. But I took a lot of things out of that.
You were working as a buyer's agent?
Buyer's agent, I was, yeah. So we, full service buyer's agency, it was a great learning curve, like really cut my teeth pretty strong. What I found really hard was actually working and operating in a market which I didn't necessarily live, so it was really hard for me to preach that to people. So I just had to come home and just make use of that. So
you took the opportunity to do that on the Central Coast as a buyer's agent for a little bit?
Yeah. Brought my business back here, built it to a really good state, but just felt a bit of an absence. I think that whole sales piece, because the family was always in that sort of things.
Yeah.
It was niggling at me, so...
Yeah, he just wanted to work with me. I was trying for years to get.
So you guys were mates, obviously.
So then you played recruiter.
Definitely. Yeah. The amount of meetings we set up with Brian.
Yeah. Oh, there was
for you to come.
It was funny. There was only one team that I wanted to work for. If I didn't get that, I was going to do something else. So.
Well, this will be a great conversation because we've all been selling agents. So I think we are the only buyers agents on the coast that have actually been selling agents. So that brings a whole nother layer of perspective to what we do. You've been a buyer's agent. We've got some great things to chat about today. And you guys are the kind of new up and comers in the real estate industry. You're the young guns that are going to be doing this for the next 20 years. So I think buyers agents are going to be a lot bigger part of your careers than they probably were of ours as selling agents. I was a selling agent in Terrigal for 10 years, and quite frankly, I think I saw one buyer's agent in that whole time.
Yep.
They just weren't around. They were in Sydney.
Yeah, it was a little bit different from me.
Not on the coast.
They emerged, quite quickly when I was a selling agent. I started in real estate in 97. By the 2000s.
Were you born?
Two.
Hilarious.
No, it's not. It makes me feel terrible. Anyways, yeah, so they were emerging and it became a very big part of our selling process when we listed property, and, you know, they're integral to our sales process and winning listings and creating opportunities for our sellers. So, yeah, we never operated. We'd always have a VIP. I guess what you kind of see on TV in the States, it was very much like that in Sydney. We'd
Without
always
the
have
short skirts and the heels.
Yeah. Wasn't selling sunset. Wasn't that glamorous. So it was very much part of it. And now I know there's so much competition. It's huge in the capital cities, even in Queensland. So it's definitely a rising profession.
Even just from when I started, like 10 years ago on the coast, I don't think I met buyer's agents. Really, they started trickling in maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Interesting.
Like you'd see one or two, but we were like, what do we do with you? Like we didn't really understand. Was it a competition against them, or were they helping? But now we're starting, obviously, to work with you guys a lot, and it's a huge benefit to our business.
Well, I think that was one of the topics that we wanted to chat about, because we have dealt with you guys quite a bit. Obviously, we deal with we go where the property is, so it's not any one particular agent, but we do buy regularly from your team. So I guess
got a deal done last week, right?
We're still in a cool-off period, aren't we? We are, actually. We did, and then our lovely clients settled on the one in Batter Bay East that we bought for lovely clients. They settled this week. So, it's a regular. I guess, what percentage of properties are you seeing? So if you're having open homes every weekend, is it most open homes you see a buyer's agent? Is it sometimes? What percentage are you seeing of buyer's agents on the coast now?
It's a good question. I would say that we probably see one at every open home, realistically.
Okay.
But that's quite
pretty
common.
regular now, isn't it? Yeah.
Definitely the better properties as well.
100%.
Like the good ones that everyone wants to see. We see them a lot, obviously.
Because we filter out the rubbish and don't turn up.
Well, we know when you guys are there, look, you've got someone behind you. There's actually a buyer there, which is great. And that's the language that we can convey to a vendor, is that, hey, it was awesome. We had a buyer's agent there. These guys do a lot of business, and they don't sign people up for no reason. I know when I was a buyer's agent, I'd take too much time and effort, and I wouldn't want to waste their time and money to sign them up if they weren't qualified and motivated. It's just what you guys do.
Do you feel like a lot of selling agents, we still feel like
we do.
A lot of buyers don't understand what we do, and I guess let's go there. We find a lot of buyers still don't understand what buyers agents actually do, but we also find a lot of selling agents don't understand what we do.
Yeah, there's quite an old-fashioned mentality around it, and a feeling of threat or loss of control or something. Do you? I guess give us your
perspective on that.
Definitely.
Or what you hear out in the
I think
market.
The biggest thing is the education you guys give the buyer through the journey. There's a lot of information out there, but stepping them through the process, understanding how buying a property works, and then having the team around that, where it's conveyances or whatever it is, and dealing with the agent, I think the education about the process is massive for people that, maybe they haven't bought a property, or maybe they don't know the location as well. Like if I was buying a property in another area that I didn't understand, I would definitely use a buyer's agent, because you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know where the housing commission is. You don't know what the best streets are. You don't know what the prices are. So I think it's essential if people don't know the market or don't know the process.
There's a perception out there that there's argy-bargy between buyer's agents and selling agents. We've done many deals with you guys, and there's never argy-bargy. Yes, you want the best result for your seller, and we want the best result for the buyer, but the market will speak and set the price. We're there to do the best we can, and so are you, but it's never a fight.
Disrespectful or a fight or
it doesn't have to be
nonsense involved.
Yeah, never. I think it's always a really smooth process with you guys. We both understand that we've got the same goal at the end. Yours is to help your client buy the property as well as they can. And, it's not always about buying it under market value. It's about securing the home that they need.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of a misconception out there with buyer's agents that way.
Yep.
You add a lot of value through buying properties, saving the money, but at the same time, it's just unlocking the right opportunity.
100%. Yeah, we were talking about this on another episode about some of the misconceptions that buyer's agents can wave a magic wand, and we buy hundreds of thousands under market value. That's what we're there to do. Buy something that's actually worth the price for much less. But that's not the case. It's about, as you rightly said, navigating if there's an opportunity there and uncovering, are the seller's needs being met? Are our clients' needs being met? Can we marry this up and make it work at a point that everyone's happy, that works? It's not about going out hunting, what can we buy undervalued,
It's an interesting scenario, and people love hearing real life stories, so let's share one without personal details. But we kind of do the same job in a different way. So you might have a seller who might be slightly unrealistic on maybe what they think their property's worth, and you need to take them on a journey of getting people through and getting some market feedback. Hope's great. Let's hope for the best, work for the best, but we've got to be realistic. Yeah. We sometimes work with clients who are potentially a little bit unrealistic about what their budget can buy and have been struggling in the market to secure something. So we're both on a journey. We saw a property with you guys and the vendor wanted probably a little bit more than what the property was worth, and our client wanted something that they probably needed to spend a little bit more than they were willing to spend. So we both took our journeys of a number of weeks. Then there came a point when the timing was right. Your vendor was a bit more realistic about what their property was probably worth, and our client realised they had to pay a little bit more for a property, and we did that deal. How do we make that happen? How do buyers agents and selling agents work together more collaboratively to know when that timing has arrived? Because it's hard. We're all busy. That's where the gold is, do you think?
Yeah. I think the gold is grinding that gap between, buyers and what the vendor wants, and I think it's just got to be down to communication and just being open and working together. We all want to get a deal done, right? But I think, if you can work out your client's needs and what our client's needs are, and you definitely can get a deal done.
We talk a lot. If we've got a client that we're really chasing for, sometimes we're talking, a few times a week. Sometimes we're hounding you.
You never hound us, don't worry. We love a good check-in.
But it's more about having that communication, and I think maybe that's where some selling agents don't think that.
I also think, you in working with you guys, you also have those robust conversations with you. Like, you're not afraid to have the uncomfortable conversations, just like we're not with our clients, to help them understand and educate them. It's not talking at them or, there's no force involved or anything like that. It's just more about helping them solve their own problem. And sometimes, we all get in our own way, but it's about, about taking them on, you take your client on their journey, we take ours on ours, and then we're communicating the whole time. So in the long run, because it's so open and transparent, it eventually comes around and it can happen.
Rick, you were talking about this earlier today.
Yeah, we take a bit more of a different approach. Like, we never feel like we have any hard conversations with people. No one's ever in a pressure cooker situation with us in terms of our owners. I think it's because they just feel so supported throughout the whole process that, the communication flows really well. They're never in shock with what's happening. They always understand where things are up to for them. So say there is a little bit of interest below what they were thinking, they're kind of well equipped for it, and there's always a conversation around it, but they never feel like,
it's not a shock.
Yeah, exactly.
It's never a shock.
We take a different approach, whereas I think there's probably some out there that are just like, hey, look, this is happening, bang, how do you deal with it? And the owner goes, whoa, this doesn't feel right. But we can navigate through that a little bit easier, the way that we approach things. Yeah, it's just about constantly just keeping them in the loop. Like, communication's massive, and the service at the end of it, they're always raving fans, which is great.
Yeah, well, that's what, and we take the same approach with our business. It's, it's how you make people feel, and people can accept news that they potentially don't want to hear if it's delivered in the right way.
Yeah,
and that's what we do as well.
We've had some conversations, and at the time, I'm reading the body language and I'm thinking in my head, they're not very liking me very much right now. But then, a week later, once they've digested the information and they've sought their own due diligence or opinions of others, and they come back and they're like, I get it now. I can't believe I didn't see it before. Or all of a sudden, we had one client and they were quite challenging to deal with. And they ended up at the end saying, oh my gosh, that was life-changing conversation. Like, that had to happen, and no one else had that with me before.
Yeah.
But it literally helped us move forward. It was like the elephant in the room and no one was ready to tackle the elephant, but you guys did. And it ultimately resulted in success for us, and we couldn't be, more thrilled.
Yeah, people just want help.
They do.
And they trust us to give them the right advice. And if we're not looking after their best interests, then we're not doing our job. Like, we need to be open and honest about the way we want to take them through the journey, I think. It's really important. Like, you can't just say, it's all going so well, let's drop it 200 grand. Like, it doesn't work. It's just, they're just going to leave.
It's interesting if you've got, and probably why this is successful and we do a lot of deals, is you've got a trusted vendor that you're dealing with in your very professional and trusted way. You've got a trusted buyer who we're dealing with who trusts us and our advice. So we've got two very trusting people of their own representation. So deals happen.
Yeah.
That's kind of where it is. And do you feel like that's going to continue on the path it's on in the growth of our particular industry, our service in the industry?
Of course.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
don't see why it wouldn't, I think the buyer's agency model makes so much sense. I'm surprised that it didn't kick off earlier than what it actually has. Yeah, like Josh said, people need help. My main clientele in Sydney, when I operated down there, was just time-poor professionals. They just did not have the time to tackle that process themselves, whether it was talking to agents, everything involved. They don't know how contracts are exchanged and all those little questions. So I don't think it actually falls back on what people generally think that buyers agents do, whether it's off-market opportunities, which is kind of how it's pitched nowadays.
I know.
But that kind of annoys us a little bit. It can do, because some want to say that's one of the biggest advantages. It's one of them, but there's a multiple other even
and
bigger
it's really
advantages.
market conditions that determine how many off-markets there are, and a lot of the off-markets aren't off-market, they're pre-market. And, it's just a complex topic, but yeah, it is used as a tool, but it's silly because it's such a small part of what we do, and not all off-markets are a great opportunity. They're just not. Yeah. So,
and there's times in the market where you want to bring your properties to market, and why wouldn't you?
100%, yeah.
The market demands it.
That's right. Like, we'll try and get a really good price early and before it hits the market, but if it's not making sense, if it's not above market value, why would you just try and sell it for cheaper without even trying?
We're not swayed one way or the other by off-markets or pre-markets or on-markets. It's all the same to us.
Yeah.
If it's a good off-market opportunity and happens to be there, then great.
Yeah.
And we've found it. We're always looking for more. It's about choice. We want to give our clients choice. And if that means more than what's sitting on the real estate portals, we're all about it and we want it. But we're certainly not swayed that we must buy off markets because they're better opportunities. They're often not.
Often they haven't been through that process of getting the price right.
They don't have the social proof. That's and sometimes, from a selling agent's point of view, that, okay, this is going to be up there. This is going to be a bit of a task. And sometimes you need it to go to market to get that social proof. Or sometimes there are situations where property is hard to price. It's one of those anomalies that there's no real data, there's no comparables, and you're sort of like, okay, it can sit kind of here, but who knows? And you kind of need to get buyers through to give you that feedback, or maybe uncover things that might hold it back that are not obvious. I think we can work really well together, because we take buyers sometimes on a journey when they think they can afford something, and we take them and show them, okay, so this is what this price range can buy you, and this is what this price range can buy you. And sometimes it sinks in then. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay.
And we see it all the time. We were talking about this recently, where you guys had a client and they kind of, sometimes I know what it's like, they go a little bit astray and they do their own research behind the scenes, and then they can get really lost in their own head. And you can imagine, if you weren't on their side, how they'd be feeling, so they'd just be mixed, and they'd be going off what agents say, which sometimes they can push them around in different directions, wrong directions, which, we don't like to do. But I think that's just another level of support you guys provide, which I really respect. Yeah, it's just keeping them on the right path. They're well educated on what market they're going to be buying in.
It's not an easy region to understand sometimes. Like, pricing property which we did for years as well as selling agents and we do now as buyers agents, you could get 3 agents in and get 3 very different prices. Yes, the comps are there, but you've got to compare apples with apples. That's a comp, but it didn't have this or it had that. It's not an exact science. There is no method.
Like if you look at pretty much our main market, East Bateau Bay, there's like 6 different zones in East Bateau Bay. There's up Poets Corner, there's the Blue Ribbon, a few streets down near the beach. One street this way doesn't get as much. Even the busier road in between it all doesn't get as much. It's really complicated.
And we're professionals, so imagine how the buyers feel.
For
They're
someone
like,
out of area, they just land there and go, what do you mean that street changes what the value's going to do? Like,
I know we get provided comps all the time from some of our clients and they're way off, but they don't know that because they just see a suburb name and they're like, well, it's all in the same suburb. And then they look at the map and they go, oh, but that's only a few streets away, but they don't understand all of those nuances that are going on in the suburb. So, it's interesting. It's definitely so much of both of our roles is education. And I think we sort of touched on it briefly earlier, but in your opinion, because this has been said to us, do you feel that we are a hindrance to the process or do you feel like you lose an element of control?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
I don't think so.
I actually feel like it's probably steered a lot better. In a lot of ways.
I think you guys have to deal with a lot of the stuff that we might not need to if you're doing it, like walking them
We've also had that said.
Walking them through the process, what's all these questions, like you can deal with that, we'll just deal with our side. So if anything, it helps us. Not only with that, but like we were saying earlier, just getting the price right and some of the feedback. Sometimes you guys are brutal, which is great to us. And then we can relay that and we know that you're going to be honest with, your feedback. So I think it's helpful always.
And if it needs urgency around a particular time frame, like you guys get it, like a lot of buyers probably just float around and they go, well, we don't know how quick we have to move on this, but you guys would understand because we're pretty open about our communication. If now's the right time to strike,
we do it.
Let's go now.
Let's go. If there's a price and we get acceptance and it's on, it's on. It's done. It's quick, and you don't even have to ask for it just comes. We just deliver it. Here you are. I'll use another example, and this is another thing where I don't know if you find that buyers are out there sometimes lowballing properties. So we had a conversation with a potential client, and we like to understand in those initial sessions what their pain points are. If you've been in the market, what are you struggling with? We try and become problem solvers. That's what we are. And he said, I think I've been lowballing things. So
and it's not the first time a potential client's told us that. Well, I keep missing property, but I think I'm too low.
So we know the difference between a reasonable offer and a lowballing offer that's going to annoy the vendor, because we've actually taken those offers to vendors as selling agents. So we have said to our clients, we're not going in at that. That's going to achieve nothing. You're not going to buy it at that. It's not a great starting space, and that's not how we're going to negotiate it. We suggest we do this. And when they understand why, it's like, yes, I understand that. So
it's also about, we say, if we want to engage in and continue this conversation, if we go in at that level, the agent's going to shut us down immediately, think we're not actually serious, and they'll move on to someone else. And we're not prepared to jeopardise our relationship because
it's unreasonable.
It's unreasonable. We work with these agents all the time, and they're integral to our business and to our clients. And they're like, oh, so it's not like a them versus you. And I'm like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah. We assure you we're going to do the best we can to secure this for the best price, but that's not the approach to take. So this fellow said, yes, I think I've been lowballing. And so he'd been looking at price guides. Let's say a price is guided from 1.5 to 1.65. You're not really looking for 1.5. You're collecting buyers in that range, but you're probably wanting a bit more than the lowest end of the guide. His top budget was the low end of the guide. So he just kept missing property. It was, I'm looking right at the edge of where I can actually afford, and I'm lowballing it. And it's resulted in months and months of frustration.
But do you actually find that yourself? So obviously you're working with a huge market, and you find buyers coming to you and asking you for price guides or opportunity they are operating in that way. So they've got a maximum. They're always looking at the maximum budget.
Yeah.
So
you never judge anybody, I guess, based on how long they're looking for. But there's an element to it where you go, well, how come you haven't found the right thing? And sometimes you can uncover that they might just be looking at the wrong price range. Like, it's just what happens. It's
people don't understand price guides all the time. They actually don't know how they work.
Yeah.
So they don't know. Yeah. They don't know what they don't know. So price guides are not easy to navigate sometimes.
Yeah.
We understand how they work, but they're not easy things to navigate from a buying perspective. And then, of course, market competition comes into play and vendor expectation, and it's very complex. But
And it's interesting, like the process with that buyer. He or she may have actually secured a property if they played it the right way.
Yep.
And weren't lowballing. Like, some clients actually do get really offended. They're like, I don't want to deal with them because they're just wasting my time. So with the right guidance, maybe he would have secured something earlier. For sure. So maybe one of those properties that they missed out on originally.
100%.
Yeah, with the right guidance. So you just need that education. For sure.
Yeah, and talking about that, like the whole relationship between our two professions, again, we touched on it just a bit before, and you were saying that, when you see us arrive at a property, that we've got someone, and, the good properties are the ones that, you see us at, the A-grade properties.
Yep.
So,
and that doesn't mean new or fancy.
No.
It just means it could be an older house in a great location, but with really good bones. That's an A-grade
That's
property.
Right. You actually said this to me maybe 2 or 3 years ago when the market wasn't very good. You said the education around those A-grade properties that were pretty much the only ones selling when no one else was looking, like the B grade, the C grade. No one even wants to touch them. No one comes. That's that education with those buyers that don't know what that is. Buy something, spend a bit more maybe, but the resale value, the ability to sell it, is way higher. So I think that's really important for people to understand as well.
And you also know what we will look at. So you contact us with opportunity. Even if it's going to market, you always give us the heads up that this is coming, it's going to market, or look, we're going to have it pre-market for a period of time or whatever, which is great. Some agents, all they do is contact us when they can't sell something. And it's already been on the market for however long, and it's kind of like, by now we well and truly have seen it. So is it the whole world? Yeah. And there's a reason it's still sitting there. Do you believe it definitely creates more opportunity by allowing buyers agents, I guess, the heads up early to what's coming?
Of course, yeah, because you guys have got someone ready to go in a lot of cases. And we only generally mention it if we get your brief and we understand what that looks like, and then we'll promote it from there. I think in being on the buyer's agent side of the fence, I know how much value and joy that gives your client too. And hey, we've got wind of something that could be suitable. I know how that makes them feel, and it's actually really rewarding. So it's nice to be able to sort of give back to your buyer from even our side of the fence in a lot of ways. And though we're not directly communicating with them, it's just a way of helping you, and them.
If you guys don't know about an opportunity, there's a buyer we might have missed in there that might be too busy to look. So it's silly for any agent not to contact you guys.
And another layer of that is when price expectation drops a little bit. That's, I feel like, the area that, if anything was to improve and it's hard to communicate always on every property. You got a lot of properties, we got buyers. Sometimes it's around that timing when a price drop happens. We might not necessarily know about it, but all of a sudden it might mean that a buyer of ours would buy that property. So that's again about our communication. We might come through it and say, look, we really like this house. We're not quite there. Let us know if something changes. But it's hard or not always easy to navigate those conversations when everyone's busy.
Yeah.
So if anything was to improve, I feel like if we all could do that better, we'd find those golden deals that maybe wouldn't be found for our clients.
Because as you know, we watch a lot of property. So where's this property up to? What's happening with this property? Just to find those opportunities where, expectations might realign or motivation changes. What interesting things are you seeing in the market right now?
I think the market's pretty good at the moment. It seems like a pretty stable market compared to what we've seen over the last, 3-5 years, where it's either been crazy hot and we've had like 30, 40, 50% growth through COVID, or the interest rates are just constantly going up and no one's buying because they don't see the end of it. So I think like in the last 12 months from our main areas, we've seen maybe 5% growth, which is just a nice steady level.
Yep.
There's a little bit of talk of interest rates potentially coming down next year. So even just the talk of that gives buyers a bit of confidence as well. I think that's important. And I'd love to see maybe 5-10% growth next year. Maybe we won't get any, but it just feels like it's just a stable, steady marketplace, I think. Some properties aren't selling if they're not set up right from the start, if they're priced wrong. But most of the time, if you get it right from the start, you're going to be able to sell the property, I think. So I like that kind of market.
Are we seeing the typical spring stock levels, do you think? What's coming,
so.
what's in the pipeline?
Seems like there's a lot coming on.
Okay.
I think there's a lot coming on.
It's a question we get asked all the time, and we're always talking to the agents about the levels of stock, and some are honest, some might add a bit of gravy. I'm not sure, but we should be starting to see that spring stock really kick in by now. Is that what you're saying?
I think there is more coming on the market for sure. We've got a lot coming on.
A lot of them are in sort of preparation phase. I feel like it's building to that point. You know, generally, I think typically it's around this time they come on, but it feels a little bit later this year.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be like an October thing. If we look at just our markets that we're in, like the Batto Bay market, you probably look at that at one given time and there's probably 20 listings on the market that sell. But at the moment, there's probably 10. So in a lot of ways, it's market dependent. You know, it's just across the board. I think you got to look at it quite refined.
We're finding that it's really, I mean, we've been in the Evoca space as well recently, and Evoca's asleep with listings.
So
it has
asleep.
been for so long. There's just no body coming to market.
Yeah.
And we know the selling agents are just as frustrated. But there's the Evoca market is a real challenge, and Copa. So Evoca, Copa, those two areas we've experienced.
very much
and
so.
It's gone on for well over 12 months.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. And there's other areas that we're working in at the moment as well. We find it goes from feast to famine. But I think you're right, Ricky, we're seeing a delay in the spring stock. We're hearing like a lot of selling agents are saying, we've done so many appraisals. There's lots of prep.
It's coming,
Lots of prep. And there's lots of people having to do upgrades and, improve finishes, and that's taking longer than anticipated. So it's holding up the process as well.
I wonder if that's just the uncertainty.
I think so. I think it is.
Over the last couple of years, like people maybe don't need to sell and they're wondering when the best time is. Maybe that chat of interest rates coming down, they feel like that they might hold out until then.
Yep.
There's a bit of uncertainty in the world as well. There's a couple of wars and there's a US election coming later this year. So there is still a bit of uncertainty as well. So you can imagine people just wait for the news to tell them to sell.
I feel like each time the Reserve Bank hold and don't rise, it just that little bit more confidence
100%.
sets in.
Yeah.
So we've had 2 holds now, I think, 2 or 3, correct me if I'm wrong, but a couple that have given some, because they're not meeting as regularly now, are they? That's given a level of certainty. I think if we get another one, that will help as well.
What's really powerful, I think, at the moment for buyers, and this is why I can see a little bit more decision coming on their behalf, is that, we went through a period, let's say late 2022, where it was just kind of gut punch after gut punch, and everyone went, where's the ceiling on this?
Yeah.
Where does this pull up? It was rate rise. And it's like, well, we don't know when to jump on the roller coaster. Like, do we just hold out? And I think there was fence sitting for both sides. But now everyone understands that it's quite equal. It's a stabilised environment. And it's probably, what I reckon is going to happen is we'll see more sellers, but we'll see more buyers. So it'll probably continue on that sort of trend. But it's in a better position to grow, if anything. Than what it was previously.
I love these conversations, and I love our conversations in general. Often we get on the phone for a real quick question and we're like still chatting 20 minutes later. But how good is it that, the buyers and sellers benefit from this type of relationship? And I just see that getting stronger and stronger. In saying that, before, to kind of wrap up, let's throw the questions back over to you. Are there any questions that you have for us about how we work, or your colleagues might have, or any misconceptions that you think are out there about buyer's agents? Because we hear about them ourselves, and we'd love to hear from your perspective if you think there are questions and misconceptions out there.
Yeah, I think it probably comes back to, it's a question like that we can both relate to. It's about how long it takes to get something done. Like, I think people have this perception that it happens really quick. Mm-hmm. For us, we're so different to most, where it doesn't have to happen fast. It's about happening where you want it to finish.
Yep.
You know, and I think for you guys, you know, we just had that client where it took a little bit more time, but they got exactly what they wanted. Mm-hmm. So I think the question is more, you know, do people come to you with the expectation that, you know, we want this to happen really, like move really fast? Is that kind of forefront, or are they more focused on if it takes a little bit longer, then that's okay too?
We have, so there's an element when they first come to us, they may have not had the greatest experience for a number of different reasons, and they'll say, we're not in a hurry, we're in no rush, and they're not really in a position to make a decision, even though they need our help. And so it's kind of like an emotional reaction. It's like we're going to say we're not in a hurry, but yet we really are, just like sellers do too. Oh, no, we're not in a hurry to sell, but literally like they are. So we get the same. We have the same thing initially sometimes.
That's so true. The ones that say that are the ones that need to sell ASAP.
We have that too, because then further conversations as a trust building, we find out all sorts of things as like, right, okay, D-Day's in 2 weeks, so we need to get our skates on. Yeah. But no, so we educate our clients a lot about it's not a race. We can tell you on average over the last 12 months how long it's taken us to purchase, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be on that same journey, because people come to us and it depends how long they've been in the market on their own and how well they know what they want. Because we've had clients make a decision in a week, the first property we've found. Not very often, it's happened maybe twice. But there's other people that literally are starting from scratch, and they need to go on probably a 2 to 3 month journey to actually nut out what it is that they really want. Yeah. So we are constantly, so long answer to your question, it's varied. We have people with all different expectations, but we set the expectation that it can take roughly, at the moment, we're on average 60 to 70 days, but it could take up to 3 months, it could take 6 months, depending on what it is that they're looking for. We probably more often than not slow people down. So they get
we sometimes say don't buy this property. Yeah. Like, it's, even though we've recommended it as one you can consider, I had it this week. They looked at this property twice and they really liked a lot about it. It met a lot of the brief. It was a great opportunity, but it just wasn't right, and I could see it. But they were struggling with the decision. They were trying to make it work. And we went to the second inspection, and I actually said to them, guys, I don't think this is for you. I don't. Like, as much as I can see that it ticks some boxes and you're trying to make it work, I think we should keep looking. And they're like, kind of took a breath. Yeah. I got a message from her later that night, and she said, I just want to say thank you for helping us make that decision that we weren't able to make, because we were talking ourselves into it, and you recognised that it wasn't the right one, even though it was close. And we feel like we're one step closer to knowing the one.
That's great.
And I'm like, that's gold.
It's such an emotional journey, isn't it? Buying, and some people just need like a cold shower. Calm down.
Totally,
like,
they do.
Cool down, and the way that you guide them through that's awesome.
Short answer, I feel like we do more of that than great. You know, being in a hurry. It's more like cooling jets and calming everyone down and helping them realise they don't have to make a decision just for making the decision. Yeah. It's, you know, it's got to be right, not just a little bit right. Yeah. And at the moment, particularly, I feel like we're doing more of that, and it's because of the lack of stock. Yeah. And how long they've been on the journey already before they come to us. Yeah.
We've been through enough property to know. That's a great question. But we've been through enough property to know when it's right and when it's not right. They're the decision maker, but we can sense when they're not committed.
It's such an
That was a great question. Any others?
I think just the misconception of there's a couple of things for the agent that you deal with. You guys are just trying to undercut us and get a super cheap deal. And on the buyer's side, they think you're going to get an extremely cheap deal. And we sort of touched on that anyway. Yeah. But that's probably the biggest misconception on both sides that I see. If if a buyer's agent comes through, I've got to get my guard up. I don't want these guys to know any information, and I don't want them to, lowball me and make it hard for me. So I think that's a big misconception, not from us, but for a lot of agents, I would think so.
Yeah.
And we do feel it. So, along with yourselves and your agency, there's a lot of other great operators that we have similar relationships with. But there is still, and I feel like it's an older mentality, because I do remember when, even in Sydney, when buyers agents, started and were on the rise there was just such an old school mentality. But I feel like with more agents, up and coming agents, buyers agents, selling agents, the whole nature of real estate is definitely changing.
Yep.
And our buyers agent space particularly is changing all the time. And, yes, it's much younger, but it's definitely on a different course.
Yeah.
So where we're going to be in 10 years is very different to right now. Yeah. So, and I think with all of that change, those older mindsets are going to disappear. And look, it goes without saying, it's any profession, not just real estate, it's any profession. There's always the small exception to the rule that kind of create these bad misconceptions, but it's not everyone. And it's not the majority, it's the minority. So I think it's about, finding who are the good operators, who you love dealing with, and that's always going to expedite the process for your clients at the end of the day.
People like doing business with people that they like, and that's just how it is, isn't it, in the industry? Yeah. There's only still such a small percentage of buyers actually using a buyer's agent, and that will change. Not everyone will use a buyer's agent. It's not for everybody. There's some people that love it and want to do it themselves. It's one of those industries that who knows, 20 years from now what the case will be, but I'll be on a beach retired, surely by then, so whatevs. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how it grows, because it really is still such a very small percentage, under 10% that are using a buyer's agent. So we'll see that change.
Well, you look at America, we're always kind of behind them, and all of those shows, it's like,
you just wouldn't buy
the agent never even sees the
No.
buyer. It's just all that connection and the relationship. So, and even with other selling agents, like we've got like a really good relationship with a couple of guys like Mitch and Jaden that we deal with all the time, and we just like share listings and share buyers, and it's just great. Like I think what you said about like people like people that they like, is that what you said?
Like doing business with people they like.
I think that's really important. That's the way we do our business, and there's a lot of agents that just, they get really ego and they don't do it the right way, but we want to get a great result for our clients, but we also want to be really good people.
Yeah.
And make sure people know that. I love running into people that I've dealt with and not worrying that they're angry.
You don't worry, you've got to find something in your mailbox or something.
Right. I love that.
Or in your doorstep.
I love that. That's why you guys are here. Like you clearly operate that way. We have a lot of respect for both of you and your team.
Yeah.
And I think real estate moving forward is becoming more consultative than salesy than it used to be. Sure. I feel like that's the track it's heading on.
It should be. Yeah, you don't want that perception out there that used car salesmen, like we're all people, and we just you got to have the utmost respect for everyone's journey.
Well, really, we're in the business of people. It's actually nothing to do with property, really. It's about people and solving their problems.
That's so true.
Yeah. I don't know if you went to ARIC, but ARIC this year was all about authenticity, and I think you guys do it incredibly well. Your team do it well, and you've got big futures ahead of you. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. And people can find you, Whiteman Property. If they want to look you up, you're on social media, obviously website. So, they can find you certainly.
Please do. Don't be scared to reach out. We don't bite.
Thanks again, guys. It was awesome having you here.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Unreal Estate. If there is someone that you think would benefit from the information that we've shared today, please feel free to share this episode or leave us a comment. We'd really love to hear your feedback. We release a new episode every 2 weeks. So to stay up to date, hit follow or subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.